Today, we're looking at Private Reserve's Black Cherry. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Private Reserve's Black Cherry is kind of a really dark magenta-brown in color. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies over the years. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down, I put it into water immediately for 10 to 15 seconds, and I let the ink creep up. What we see is that it immediately starts moving up, and we've got this kind of pink, then up the magenta into red and blue at the very top, a very light blue. But between the blue and the magenta is this very dark line. Quite interesting, giving this ink its color characteristics. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into the water for the 10 to 15 seconds. And it looks exactly the same. If we cover the top, you would not be able to tell the difference between these two chromatographies. That means I don't expect it to have any issue cleaning out of a pen. Now, resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to hold up on the page and how hard it might be to clean out of your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before I test it. And look at the highlighter, it doesn't like it. It reactivates, it goes all over, it swam away from where it was written. Don't highlight over your writing with this. Don't use this for art. That would be bad. When we look at the water, we're getting a result we expect. Most of this ink is picking up and fleeing the page, leaving just a little bit of pink behind. But that water drop was only in place for about 30 seconds, and then I dabbed it up. Now, with it moving that much with water, you expect it to move just a little bit more with flush, which is exactly what it did. It does the same. It picks up most all of that ink. Bleach is completely removing it from the page. We're seeing a little bit of yellow staining from the bleach left behind, but that's it. Don't use bleach to get rid of this. You don't need it. Water is more than enough to get this out of your pen. Now, this is a bell curve showing the normal distribution. For the 365 inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, and I've found that the range of normal goes from 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Black Cherry has a viscosity of 1.66, making this a wet ink. This bell curve is for dry times. Now, for the 365 inks tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the range of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Private Reserve's Black Cherry has an average dry time of 9 seconds, making it a fast dry ink. Faster drying than some fast dry inks I have actually tested already. Amazing, but it dries quite fast, which can be very useful for when you're on the go in your notebook. So how do I find my average dry time? I use my writing samples. I use the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper, and I average those 6 times to figure out how long this ink takes to dry. Now let's take a look at the writing sample. I have this ink in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at the Clairefontaine. We have no bleed, no ghosting. With the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no color variation. No shading whatsoever. Looking at the extra fine, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. We do get some shading, not a ton. It gets this all the way through all the writing samples. It's got this really nice dark, rich red that in some areas gets just really deep towards black, but more exactly like Black Cherries, exactly like what it's named for. Looking at the medium, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. Looking at the scrubby, I don't expect to get color variation on this paper, but on the smear test, I would be able to recover it. Looking at the Tomoe River. Now, I don't know if that spot was me being aggressive or if it actually did come through. So we'll call it a bleed spot. We have one bleed spot as the maybe. we have ghosting because it's Tomoe River. Looking at the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. With the extra fine, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 11 seconds. 11 seconds to dry. On the medium, same story. It's a little bit darker than it was with the extra fine. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 15 seconds. So we get very similar performance, very similar color. Look at that scrubby. That scrubby shows us the same color with extra fine as medium. And both give us no color variation. Now, when I go to the smear test, I actually think I could recover this. This is one of the few inks I think I could recover from Tomoe River if I made a mistake. Looking at Rhodia paper, we have no ghosting, no bleeding. With the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Get a lot of that this whole way through. On the extra fine, it looks like it's just a tonal value down from the 1.1. It looks just a little bit lighter as a color. So we might be able to achieve some shading with this ink based on the pen and flow you choose. The writing for the extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, and only took 5 seconds to dry. Wow. And it's not a fast dry ink. When I tested their fast dry inks, they didn't come up as fast dry for me. This dried faster than their fast dries. Looking at the medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 8 seconds. But it's a fantastic color. The scrubbies show us we're not going to get any color variation, and the smear test says we can recover this if we smear it while writing. I went to the Monokaki paper. I really hope I'm not butchering that name. We have no bleeding. We have some ghosting. It's a thin paper. We have no bleed though. With the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. No shade. 6 seconds. Pretty fast. With the medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 9 seconds. And look at the scrub, you see no color variation whatsoever in that scrubby. But on the smear test, this can be recovered. Then I go to TWSBI paper because I like testing the pen manufacturer's paper. We have no bleeding. We have ghosting. It's because it's a dark ink. So it's not bad. One of my preferred notebooks. With the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Nope. Nothing. But when we go to the extra fine, we see a very definite color difference. Incredible color difference. It's a couple tones down. We have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shading in the writing. 7 seconds to dry. With the medium, we get no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 11 seconds to dry. Our scrubbies show us we're not going to get any color variation. Our smears show us we would be able to recover this. So this is not a bad paper and ink combination. I forgot to show it, so I actually want to do that right now instead of just editing it in later. When I used a 1.1 stub, the Lamy, I like Lamy stubs the best out of what's out there. We don't really get that color difference. But when I'm looking at the Lamy writing for my notes, I get color variation on the. I'm getting color variation in Fox, in Lazy, in Perfectly, in Named, none in Ink, perfectly named ink. We get some in Food. So you can, the only nib I've gotten real good color variation out of has been that Lamy 1.1. I don't want to use this ink in any other nib. Use it with a 1.1 from Lamy. The Yovo didn't give it. The Lamy, fantastic. Go with it. That's all I have for the writing sample. Instead of looking for an ink that looks like Private Reserve's Black Cherry, I would prefer to find a nice color to complement the color on the page. And I've chosen Robert Oster Tranquility because it is a beautiful turquoise that is not as dark and harsh as we're getting with the Black Cherry. Before I get to my opinion on this ink, I would ask if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, what I do is I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen and use that for a day. I then put it into a Lamy Al-Star with a 1.1 stub to take my notes for this video. So what do I think of Private Reserve's Black Cherry? I think it's a fantastic color, a very dark, rich red that when it's wetter, leans its way towards black in not a way that you can't tell it's red. It is a great color. Thanks for watching.